Last week, we learned about habitats.
A habitat is somewhere a living thing lives that includes access to shelter, water, and food.
And when you have a bunch of habitats that interact, you get an ecosystem. An ecosystem is a system formed by the interactions of a community of organisms within their environment.
En español, un ecosistema es un sistema formado por las interacciones de una comunidad de organismos dentro de su entorno.
So we can think of the garden like an ecosystem because there are lots of organisms here that interact, both benefiting and harming one another so that there's a balance. What types of interactions can you think of that happen between the organisms in a garden? Take a few moments to think about it and then write or draw your answers on a piece of paper or in your science journal. If you need a starting place, think about the organisms we talked about last time. We talked about spiders, centipedes, worms, birds, and aphids. Can you think of how those species interact? You can also think of some other species because the garden is full of them. When you're done, we'll come back and take a look around the garden and see what interactions we can find. What are these plants growing in? That's right, soil. Some of the species that we looked at last week that benefit the soil are worms, centipedes, and spiders. Since all of those creatures live in the soil, when they crawl around, they aerate the soil. That means that they're leaving behind them little pockets of air, and this helps plant roots be able to spread wider throughout the soil. Worms also eat decaying matter, like dead leaves and rotting fruit, and they poop out soil that's really fertile and great for plants to grow in. Almost every species in the garden interacts with plants in some way or another. We saw how birds make their shelter in plants. They also eat plants, disperse seeds, and pollinate the plants.
Part of a bird's diet includes our worm friends.
Insects are also well-known pollinators and can be found crawling on the plants and eating them as well.
Aphids eat plants and harm the plants in the process, but they also attract ladybugs, which eat the aphids and other harmful insects.
You know who else likes to eat plants? Humans. Kale.